I saw an argument recently that honestly sums up half of the Rise of the Kingdom. One guy say min-maxing wins, the other guy basically replied with just spend more, and the funny thing is both of them think they was right. Now, if you're playing the game long enough, you're probably met both players. You got the guy tracking every gem, every speed up, every sculpture, every event, every resource. Then you got the guy who just buys bundles whenever something looks useful. And if you ask newer players who is going to have the strongest account 6 months later, most people immediately pick the spender. Seems obvious. More money, more power, case closed. Except that's not what I keep saying. Except that's not what I keep saying. And that's what made me start thinking differently about account strange. Because some of the strongest players I've been met weren't the bigger spenders. Not even close. Actually, some of the biggest spenders I've been met had surprisingly average accounts, which sounds crazy until you start looking deeper. I remember one kingdom where there were two players who spent roughly the same amount. Similar bundles, similar activity, similar account age. And to be fair, in Rise of Kingdom, I think everybody know which bundles is with the biggest value, which bundle is with second value, and etc. Maybe I'm going to make a video about this. Just let me know in the comments below. Are you interested in this type of videos? But yeah, similar bundles, similar activity, and similar account age. But one guy was always ahead. Better commanders, better gear, better events, better field performance, everything. And at first I assumed he was the spending more. That's usually the easy answer. But he wasn't. He was just wasting less. And honestly, that realization changed how I look at strategy games. And this is spending less. This is one of the most important points in this video. And I can show you right now, I have 56 of this legendary commander sculpture, and I didn't spend even a single sculpture. We're going to go over this, why I'm doing that, and what is the right approach and all these things that can help you build strong account. But again, this is a huge realization. You don't need to spend everything. It's very important, because I think most players overestimate spendings and underestimate decision making. It may sound strange, it may sound crazy, but I think people focus over where to spend something and not should they spend or when should they spend it. They just want to spend it now. Now, don't get me wrong, money matters, of course it matters. A whale is still a whale. Let's not pretending otherwise. But what I think people misunderstanding is this. Spending creates opportunities. Decision determining what happened into those opportunities. This is a big difference. And what I mean by opportunities, now from first look, people are thinking, okay, he's basically buying this bundle. He's basically buying this bundle. So he's getting advantage from this bundle. But this is not right. Hear me out. This is not right. The moment some event appear in Rise of Kingdom, for example, Mightiest Governor, what do we have? Today's resource gathering. Everybody can compete in resource gathering. Before this day come, you can basically prepare some already finishing resource gathering heroes waiting in front of your castle. The day start, you bring back these heroes. You start with crazy amount of resources. I mean, there is a tips and tricks that you can implement. But this is not the place where the biggest change is happening in form of ranking in the mightiest governor. This is just an example with this event. It's mostly around speed ups, for example, like troop training and etc. So when you're doing this troop training, okay, starting stage, troop training, defeat barbarians, resource gathering. In the troop training is where everything get decided. Now, enemy elimination, I don't know, I'm not quite sure. I didn't play that much Mightiest Governor, but troops training is where the things getting wild. And how you can train more troops is when you have speed ups to do that, right? The resources and speed ups. If you don't have them, you cannot compete in this phase. So the smart player, yeah, he can buy a bundles, but know exactly when to use what is inside this bundle. Whatever you're buying is not necessarily mean you have to spend it right away. And I have been seeing players spending thousands and still fall behind players spending for less. Not because they were unlucky, because they keep making decisions that feels good instead of decisions that create long-term value. And honestly, I've been doing this myself. I even make a couple spins here, but you know, I think yesterday. So yeah, just do the free spins when you start playing Rise of Kingdom. But yeah, I have also make it some problems. I remember spending resources on thinking that would get amazing at the moment, a commander I wasn't really ready for, an event that wasn't actually helping my account, a shiny upgrade that made me feel stronger for above 5 minutes. And one of the latest things that I invest in, maybe I think I should not invest, it was actually Minamato. But I still try to get the best value from the Minamato. Now, I'm not going to play Cavalry. Let's start from there. I don't plan to do that. Even though for a spender, maybe the Cavalry is the right approach. Because you can have easily Minamato level it up. Because from the VIP shop, you can basically buy his bundles. For 100 bucks, you get 270 sculptures, his sculptures. There is no other thing you can do in this game to get for 100 bucks 270 sculptures. So, it's very easy to be awakened, and yeah, maybe the approach for spenders. But the thing I actually did was I buy this one so I can get this 500 books of Covenant. This is the main reason, and I actually level up this hero to like 5311. The best thing for Minamato can, you can go like 5511. But still, there is things that I spent, it make my account stronger, but it's not something that I'm going to use in future. Then 3 months later, I was wondering where all my resources went. That was in my previous start in Rise of Kingdom. Right now, I don't, I'm just sharing some past mistakes that I was make it back in the days. Right now, I look over everything. But I still make some mistakes. Okay, for example, I don't have some kind of books. I don't have books, and my Minamato is sitting like this. I cannot level up him, and the reason behind it because I make a mistakes and I level up Chow Chow. So even that, even that we're playing basically. We're trying to be extremely efficient. There is still some mistakes here and there that happen, and you cannot avoid it. You see it, but majority of the cases is way too late. And that's where I think the biggest myth in Rise of Kingdom comes from. Players think power comes from spending. I think power comes from conversion. How efficiently do you convert resources into account growth? That's the real game, because everybody gets resources. Some players gets more than others, sure. And I want to point out, we're not comparing well with free-to-play player, okay? We're comparing well with well, wall spender with wall spender, mid spender with mid spender, and how one of the accounts can have like close to 2 times bigger progress if they know what they're doing. From example, the other account that is not so sure what they're doing. But everybody is consistently converting resources into progress, and some players are absolutely terrible at it. I see this all the time with the gems. A player save 100k gems sound impressive, then they spend them in 5 different directions. Little bit here, little bit there, some wells, some random purchases, some impulsive spending. 3 months later, they have nothing to show for it. Another player takes the same gems, put everything toward one's objective. And here is the thing with the objective: is the game is having different systems. So far, I have opened the hero system and the gear system. This is so far what I have opened. So if I invest everything in the gear, I'm going to have one extremely solid gear. But if I invest some in the gear, I invest some in the wiki spin, I invest some to buy something that is maybe supporting some other system, or maybe spend some gems for requiting. I mean, all these things put it together is basically is slowly moving your account. The same way that if you put everything in gear, it may not, for example, it may not show crazy results, but it's going to make, in form of power growth, but it's going to make your account or hero or your legion extremely strong at the end of the day. And this is what is to putting everything in one objective. You make this objective very solid, which makes your account very solid. And suddenly their accounts jump ahead. Same resources, different decision. And you're going to see the same players, one have one legion that is owning the battlefield, and you have the same dude that you every day when you open Rise of Kingdom and you see their names here in the wooden chest, you know exactly what they're buying, but they're having completely different legions and completely different performance on the battlefield, which is absolutely wild at the end of the day. It's not actually that wild, but it's actually expected. And suddenly their accounts jump ahead, as I already mentioned. Because if that were true, I mean that is why I still disagree with players who say strategy doesn't matter because spending exists. Because if that weren't true, all whales would have identical accounts. And they don't. Not even close. Some whales are monsters, some whales are surprisingly inefficient. The same applies to whale spenders. Some whale spenders look impossible to catch, others permanently struggle. The difference usually isn't spending, it's priorities. Actually, one thing I've noticed after years playing kingdom building games or strategy games is an account strength is often built through boring decisions. So yeah, one of the decisions that I actually plan to do, and I spoke with many players, is to invest in Yasiji. This is one of the heroes that are going to come in the game. I don't know who sent me some yeah, we can see it from here. I get a lot of reports, by the way. So yeah, UCG is this UCG, and so far this hero is extremely solid from what I saw, especially with this thing, 50% more skill damage. But I really don't want to go that much in deep over this just one hero. But if spending alone if spending alone solve everything, half the accounts I've been seeing won't be struggling. The real question is how much are you? The real question isn't how much you're spending. The real question is how much value you're getting from what you're spending. That's where the game gets interesting. Anyway, I'm curious where you stand on this. Have you ever, let me just remove this thing. Have you ever looked at somebody's account and thought they must be spending way more than you, or only to realize they were just making better decisions? Or do you think spending still overwhelm everything else? Let me know in the comments below. So far, I was Burgers. Thank you very much for watching my video. Don't forget to hit one like, also subscribe. I'm going to put one video here, it can be interesting for you. I wish you a great day and see you in the next video.